We have been reading in some of our classes The Little Prince, and I wanted to continue that so that we could finish that at least by Christmas. So I'm not going to start from the very beginning. So I'm going to start where most of us left off, learning about the flower. All right. And so I'm going to read a little bit, and then I'm going to give you an option that you can do for art, something that you can draw and use your imagination. And then I'll break this up into a few sections, and we'll learn all about the Little Prince. So here we go. I soon learned to know that flower better. On the Little Prince's planet, there had always been very simple flowers, decorated with a single row of petals, so that they took up no room at all and got in no one's way. They would appear one morning in the grass and would fade by nightfall. But this one had grown from a seed brought from who knows where, and the little prince had kept a close watch over a sprout that was not like any of the others. It might have been a new kind of baobab, but the sprout soon stopped growing and began to show signs of blossoming. The little prince, who had watched the development of an enormous bud, realized that some sort of miraculous apparition would emerge from it. But the flower continued her beauty preparations in the shelter of her green chamber, selecting her colors with the greatest care and dressing quite deliberately, adjusting her petals one by one. She had no desire to emerge all rumpled like the poppies. She wished to appear only in the full radiance of her beauty. Oh, yes, she was quite vain. And her mysterious adornment had lasted days and days. And then, one morning, precisely at sunrise, she showed herself. And after having labored so painstakingly, she yawned and said, "Ah, I'm hardly awake. Forgive me, I'm still all untidy." But the little prince couldn't contain his admiration. "How lovely you are!" "Aren't I?" said the flower sweetly. "And I was born the same time as the sun." The little prince realized that she wasn't any too modest, but she was so dazzling. "I believe it is breakfast time," she soon added. "Would you be so kind as to tend to me?" And the little prince, utterly abashed, having gone to look for a watering can, served the flower. She had soon begun tormenting him with her rather touchy vanity. One day, for instance, alluding to her 4 thorns, she remarked to the little prince, "I'm ready for tigers with all their claws." "There are no tigers on my planet," the little prince had objected, "and besides, tigers don't eat weeds." "I'm not a weed," the flower replied. "Forgive me. I'm not at all afraid of tigers, but I have a horror of drafts. You wouldn't happen to have a screen." "A horror of drafts? That's not a good sign for a plant," the little prince had observed. How complicated this flower is. So here are oops, there's the picture of the little prince tending the flower. Uh, and here's the tiger that doesn't exist on his planet. "After dark, you will put me under glass. How cold it is where you live, quite uncomfortable. Where I come from," but she suddenly broke off. She had come here as a seat. She couldn't have known anything of other worlds. Humiliated at having let herself be caught on the verge of so naive a lie, she coughed 2 or 3 times in order to put the little prince in the wrong. "That screen? I was going to look for one, but you were speaking to me." Then she made herself cough again, in order to inflict a twinge of remorse on him, all the same. So the little prince, despite all the goodwill of his love, had soon come to mistrust her. He had taken seriously certain inconsequential remarks and had grown very unhappy. "I shouldn't have listened to her," he confided to me one day. "You must never listen to flowers. You must look at them and smell them. Mine perfumed my planet, but I didn't know how to enjoy that. The business about the tiger claws, instead of annoying me, ought to have moved me." And he confided further, In those days, I didn't understand anything. I should have judged her according to her actions, not her words. She perfumed my planet and lit up my life. I should never have run away. I ought to have realized the tenderness underlying her silly pretensions. Flowers are so contradictory. Yet I was too young to know how to love her. Chapter 9. Oh, here's one more picture of the little prince with the screen protecting the flower, his rose. In order to make his escape, I believe he took advantage of a migration of wild birds. On the morning of his departure, he put his planet in order. He carefully raked out his active volcanoes. The little prince possessed 2 active volcanoes, which were very convenient for warming his breakfast. He also possessed 1 extinct volcano. But, as he said, you never know. So he raked out the extinct volcano too. If they are properly raked out, volcanoes burn gently and regularly, without eruptions. Volcanic eruptions are like fires in a chimney. Of course, on our Earth, we are much too small to rake out our volcanoes. That is why they cause us so much trouble. The little prince also uprooted, a little sadly, the last baobab shoots. He believed he would never be coming back, but all these familiar tasks seemed to him very sweet on this last morning, and he watered the flower one last time and put her under a glass. He felt like crying. "Goodbye," he said to the flower, but she did not answer him. "Goodbye," he repeated. The flower coughed, but not because she had a cold. "I've been silly," she told him at last. "I ask your forgiveness. Try to be happy." He was surprised that there were no reproaches. He stood there quite bewildered, holding the glass bell in midair. He failed to understand this calm sweetness. "Of course I love you," the flower told him. "It was my fault you never knew. It doesn't matter. But you were just as silly as I was. Try to be happy. Put that glass thing down. I don't want it anymore." "But the wind." "My cold isn't that bad. The night air will do me good. I'm a flower." "But the animals." "I need to put up with 2 or 3 caterpillars if I want to get to know the butterflies. Apparently they're very beautiful. Otherwise, who will visit me? You'll be far away. As for the big animals, I'm not afraid of them. I have my own claws." And she naively showed her 4 thorns. Then she added, "Don't hang around like this. It's irritating. You've made up your mind to leave. Now go." For she did not want him to see her crying. She was such a proud flower. So here's the drawing of the little prince raking out his volcano. So this one must be the extinct volcano here. And then his flower here under the glass. You see how small his planet is, right? He could walk all around it and see 42 sunsets. Here's his volcano that he's cooking breakfast on. Then, to be honest, I'm not sure what's going on with that volcano, but he's taking care of his planet, getting ready to leave. So I know some of the classes have done this already, but if you have not, for this part of the book, what would be really, really great and would use your imagination is I want you to create your own planet. It can be small, big. You can make it out of a regular planetary materials, rocks, or things like that. Or if you want to be a little more adventurous, you can make it out of cotton candy or make it a world completely made of water or a world completely made of flying creatures, whatever you want. All right. So design your own planet, be as detailed as you can. Show me what it's like to live on your planet, what kind of creatures live there, and also color it, right? And I want you to be very careful with your coloring because a lot of times what you guys do is that you take all this time to draw and you have all these great ideas, but then you scribble the coloring at the end. So I want you to take your time with the coloring and really pay attention to the direction that you're coloring, how hard you're pressing. Think about what materials you might use. You can choose anything you like, and enjoy creating your own planet.